Okay, we got a quorum, so we're gonna go ahead and call the meeting to order. Thanks for being here. Appreciate it. Uh, Item one, approval of the agenda. Are there any changes? If not, motion to approve.
Move to approve.
Second. On a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. TAC meeting minutes of October 27th. Any additions? Not, okay. Motion? Yeah. Got a motion, second. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
But it carried. Director's report, Chad.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the Technical Advisory Committee. We have a short agenda today. That's sweet and nice. Time is effective today. We have a few reports to report, and staff is here, starting with Marky. Marky, please.
Thank you. Good morning. Nice to see so many people here on a rainy and kind of cold day. So we will keep things fairly brief, as Chad said. The first is we just wanted to give an additional heads up of the draft 2026 meeting schedule. This is in the packet. I also have little mini business card sized ones printed out here at the front. Please feel free to take some, include them in your wallet, put them next to your monitors. Of course, I know the WAMPO meeting schedule is very important to everyone, so please feel free to take these. The meeting schedule in 2026 does follow the established meeting frequencies. The only changes are that the TAC meeting will be held a week early in May to not conflict with Memorial Day. So that will be on the third Monday of the month rather than the fourth. And then there will not be a January TPB meeting. We also just wanted to give another notice that we are coordinating a series of regional connections, presentations to the TPB. So this is inviting our jurisdictions to present on any programs, policies, or projects of regional importance. So we have been doing these at our regularly scheduled transportation policy body meetings. We will continue these into 2026 as well. 6 presentations have been given so far, and we are sharing the links to those in the TPB meeting packets. And so please let us know if anyone is interested in presenting. We'd love to schedule a time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And Peter has the next item.
Just a quick update on our request for proposals and our procurement. So we have the active transportation plan. Consultant has been selected. The contract scope has been negotiated. We're just finalizing his fee schedule, and we anticipate presenting a contract for TPP approval on December 9th. The household travel survey, the RFP closed September 26th. 3 proposals were received. A consultant has now been selected, and a contract is being negotiated.
Thank you so much, Peter. And that's household travel surveys. I think we have an update on Safe Routes to School. So Kim is not here. Maybe Marky is going to help with the presentation, or Peter is going to help. That's later in the but let our chair lead the next items again. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, public comments. Anybody here or online like to comment? Okay, thank you. Action item, the program manual on limited English proficiency. Marky.
Thank you. So as I'm sure you are all at least somewhat familiar with Title VI, WAMPO does ensure full compliance with Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964, Civil Rights Restoration Act of 1987, and related statutes and regulations in all programs and activities. We maintain a Title VI program manual to document compliance with Title VI and ensure non-discrimination. Some more background about Title VI. I know there's a lot on this slide, so I apologize. I will try not to just read it all completely. Title VI establishes that no person in the United States shall, on the grounds of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation, denied the benefits of, or be otherwise subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. This was expanded upon in the Civil Rights Restoration Act in 1987 to include programs and activities by any agency that receives any federal funding. So that, of course, does include WAMPO. For this, we follow the outlines and the regulations in the Federal Transit Administration's Circular 4702.1B, and that guides the Title VI regulations for recipients. Included in that, it does outline that recipients need to submit a program once every 3 years. As a subrecipient, WAMPO documents our compliance through the Kansas Department of Transportation. Since our plan was last updated in 2022, we have updated it again this year. Okay, sorry about that. Just to go over some components of this plan, and you will find a copy in front of you as well. This includes a Title VI notice to the public, the complaint procedures, and the complaint form. The complaint form is also available in Spanish and Vietnamese. Then we also have a list of any Title VI investigations, complaints, or lawsuits. To date, there have not been any complaints against WAMPO. We also include details about our public participation plan, language assistance plan, a demographic profile of the metropolitan area, and then a description and analysis of how Title VI responsibilities are considered during the planning process. And then our limited English proficiency plan, some more details about this is that compliance with Title VI includes ensuring access to programs and services for persons not proficient in the English language. This is a protection afforded under Title VI and non-discrimination on the basis of national origin. WAMPO maintains our limited English proficiency AP plan to outline the provisions that WAMPO will afford to people with a limited ability to communicate in English. Outlined in this same circular, there is a 4-factor analysis. This analysis is included both in the limited English proficiency plan and in the Title VI plan, and this includes data on the number and proportion of LEP persons eligible to be served or likely to be encountered, the frequency of contact with LEP persons, the nature and importance of the services provided by WAMPO, and then the resources available to assist with LEP outreach and associated costs. Doing this 4-factor helps set up an agency to be able to implement a cost-effective and appropriate mix of resources. And then just as an overview, we found that individuals with limited English proficiency in the WAMPO area, it's about 5.93% of the population age 5 and older. So implementing this, the circular does include a safe harbor provision, which indicates that a plan for provision for written translation is considered strong evidence of compliance with Title VI. The obligations under this outline that providing written translations of the vital documents for the LEP language groups in the region that are either 5% or 1,000 persons are the two that we follow. So the two language categories that fit this are Spanish speakers and Vietnamese speakers. So WAMPO does provide translation of all of our vital Title VI documents in those 2 languages as well. That includes the notice, the complaint procedures, and the form, as well as our Title VI brochure and a residence guide that kind of gives an overview of the work we do. We may also produce other translations when possible and reasonable and based on the needs of the public. We also will do what we can for other forms of language assistance, such as interpretation or alternate formats. This might include sign language or large print documents. And all of this is outlined in our LEP plan as guidance for WAMPO staff for when we do encounter persons with limited English proficiency. Both of these plans are fairly straightforward, and they are just updated versions from the versions approved in 2022. The update process included updating it with latest American Community Survey or ACS data. This included the demographic profile for the WAMPO region and the 4-factor analysis for LEP. And then we revised some language to ensure alignment with updated federal guidance. And then we updated a few minor things just for extra clarity. For example, procedures for staff to follow and our translation services provider. And then the updated draft Title VI program manual and limited English proficiency plans have been reviewed by KDOT, FTA, FHWA, and also our legal counsel, just to ensure that everything looks good. Are there any questions for me before I read the action options? Okay. The action options are to recommend the TPB approve the Title VI program manual and limited English proficiency plan as presented, recommend the TPB not approve the Title VI and LEP plan, or recommend the TPB approve the Title VI and LEP plan with specific changes. WAMPO staff recommending the TPB approve the Title VI program manual and limited English proficiency plan as presented.
Discussion?
Mr. Chair, I recommend that we approve the plan and the program manual as presented.
Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, safe routes to school. Peter, are you gonna take this one?
Just want to do a quick introduction. Kim Negrete fortunately couldn't make our meeting today, so I just want to introduce Chris Brown with SRF to give us an update on safe routes to school.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Good morning, all. All right, let's jump right into some updates over the last couple of months. So next slide. All right, so just a reminder on kind of our most recent significant push for this study was the engagement in the fall. So this is just a reminder of where we were and where we're headed regarding the parent caregiver survey that was open for several months in the fall. We collected student tally data from all priority schools. So that was understanding by a show of hands in classrooms across those schools how students arrived and departed school that day, which mode. WAMPO staff attended some fall events across the metro area to get feedback and advertise the study. And then we also collected walk audits for 50 plus schools in the month of October, which I'll highlight a couple samples here in a few moments. So our online survey results, very pleased to share that we had almost 2,300 respondents. You can see the English and Spanish survey breakdowns here. And of those respondents, some had multiple children. So over 3,000 students were, information of safe routes to school issues and opportunities and other aspects were shared with us. So we were really pleased with the level of feedback and the amount of data that we have to work through to identify issues and opportunities. And just mentioning here that it was open for several months and just recently closed in the last couple of weeks. So we're actively summarizing all this information, and I'll touch on that here in a moment. And this is just showing all the schools. So, received responses from many schools across the MPO. And so appreciate those school districts that helped us advertise and push out this information so we could get as much responses as possible. This is showing the breakdown by grade of respondents. And so it's pretty equal, all things considered, across all grades. Skews into the elementary school, the K through 5, which is pretty typical, but nevertheless, even in the 9th and 10th grades and in high school, got some good response rates there too. So just wanted to highlight that overall, a pretty even response rate across all grades. And so then we asked 2 questions that are industry standard questions for safe routes to school as a part of these caregiver surveys. The first being, what are the issues that prevent your student from walking or biking to from school? And so kind of the top 5 responses, it taking too long and weather, obviously things that we can't necessarily control, but are good to note, especially for other policies and programs that could be relevant to the safe routes to school ease. Lack of facilities, a very common answer. Obviously, gaps in the sidewalk network, the biking network for paths or other infrastructure are a huge barrier to getting to from school, along with poor driving behavior or safety issues. Again, that's related to obviously, gaps in safe crossings or perceptions of unsafe driving behavior, such as speeding or other, other activities that would create an unsafe space. So again, all of this is kind of coalescing around what can we do across the ease of engineering, enforcement, education, to try and lessen these issues and make parents or caregivers comfortable to let their kids walk or bike to school. And then this next question is kind of the flip side of that. So identifying issues, identifying opportunities. So what would help to make folks comfortable for their students to walk or bike? The number one response was better facilities. So again, stitching together that walking and biking network in a more complete fashion. Followed by slower speeds, more crossing guards. This came up several times, but having an adult or a trusted caregiver perhaps be present to lead a group of children, like in a walking school bus, that's called. So having more opportunities to share the load and ensure that students have a safe space to walk or bike to school. Education, winter maintenance, also other items that were highlighted in this survey. We also had an online web map that received over 1,000 responses. So again, excited to have such a good response rate with this. Very arbitrarily here, we're still sifting through all this information, but just wanted to kind of provide a snapshot of some of those areas that had some denser responses. So again, nothing scientific here, but just kind of snapshot across the MPO here of some areas that we're starting to tease out based upon, again, the peer density of responses. So hopefully some of these are maybe making sense and much more information to come to on this aspect. So a couple of snapshots here just to kind of show how we're breaking things down. This will be done for all of the nearly 60 priority schools that we've been working through for the last almost a year here. And so one example here is Andover Prairie Creek. So you're seeing that student tally information on the left side. That is showing, again, that information of how students are arriving or departing based upon their responses in the classroom. And so for this example, elementary school, most are coming by family vehicle followed by school bus. It's pretty typical. And then there is a good chunk, though, of 150 plus students that are walking or biking, which is great to see. So this is information that can help us understand, again, what are, there already is a decently healthy number of kids walking or biking to school. So there are other program elements or infrastructure that could help make this, make those numbers even greater. And then you're seeing just that grade breakdown on the right side, just to understand, the mixture of responses that we received. Those same two questions before about issues and opportunities. So again, you're seeing this down at the school level now, but tracking pretty closely to what I had shared from the total responses. So again, concerns about lack of crossing guards, poor driving behavior, incomplete network, and then corresponding desires to improve those aspects. Education actually was highlighted as a higher number of responses. And so again, showing how all of the E's can kind of holistically hopefully work to, improve walking and biking to the school, for example. And here's a snapshot of the walk audit. Admittedly, I think Kim and then my colleague Bill were on this audit, so both aren't present today to dig into the details, but can at least talk through some of the high-level conditions that were identified. And so, generally the uses, the parent drop-off, the school buses are all separate, which is great. But there's still some lack of perhaps some connections into the neighborhood here. You're also seeing just from Google that queued parent line crossing over the pedestrian crossing. So obviously just some safety concerns related to that queue and how to make sure, safe crossings for students walking and biking can be promoted. But, based upon that bike rack too, you're also seeing, again, a pretty significant number of students already walking or biking to school. And then just starting to tease out some potential opportunities for, for parents to crossing improvements or crossing guard placement. So again, we did this deep of a dive for all the priority schools across the WAMPO area. And this is, I think we just have one more snapshot just to kind of, again, show the breakdown of data. So this is for Black traditional magnet in Wichita. You're also seeing how school busing policy can impact things across districts. So bus ridership is much lower for this school compared to, family vehicle drop-offs, and still a decent number of 50 to 60 kids walking to school as well. And then the grade breakdown on the right there. Younger students more represented in the survey responses for this school. Same question as before, with issues and opportunities. So seeing similar trends here to poor driving behavior and lack of facilities, and the corresponding desire for better facilities, crossing guards, and slower speeds. And so you're kind of seeing themes here with our responses, even down to the school level, being quite similar and not totally surprising, but good information to further mine and figure out next steps. And again, just some brief walk audit findings. So you can see, the level of detail that we got down to. So I know the audit team that worked on this school, as you can see, arrived shortly after some rainfall. So we were even able to see, where is water pooling, where are there potential drainage issues. And so these audits are really helpful down to the granular level immediately surrounding each school campus. Again, this one had some more, is in a bit more of an urban area. So perhaps had a decent network of walking and biking, but then, focusing more on safe crossings to stitch that together, or needing more crossing guards. So you're also kind of seeing how the different contexts of urban and suburban areas are differing a little bit in these audits and the opportunities to make safer spaces. So there's some high-level key themes. Obviously, this is very preliminary. Continue working on this throughout the winter, but trying to tease out some high-level thematic pieces. So site circulation and drop-off congestion obviously is a really key piece to all this, and making sure that, one, how does the parent drop-off pickup space operate efficiently, and how do you also make sure it's safe for people walking and biking if they have to cross it? Improving the walking and biking network and creating safer crossings, and then starting to tease out, those educational or programmatic needs and desires from this information, and all the good conversations that were had with school staff and others that attended. So we'll be working through summaries down to the school level throughout the winter here. So just kind of highlighting that that's forthcoming, and there'll be a lot of great information to dig into, in the next couple of months here. We'll end with kind of a next step. So as we're wrapping up existing conditions and this engagement summary, just kind of wanting to level set on the next piece, the exciting piece, which is identifying and confirming those issues and sorting out opportunities and recommendations. So this will be kind of, starting to roll out, let's say, in the spring, but nevertheless, just showing here one high-level example from another study of kind of the level of recommendations. So this is at the school level again, but then on that map, just highlighting, with a line, here is a walking gap or a biking gap, or with a circle, here's an intersection that could use safety improvements, or intersection that can benefit from a marked crosswalk. Brief description of that recommendation and some very high-level qualitative prioritization of those improvements. So just wanting to share, much more information to come, but just starting to tease out kind of level setting our documentation and our level of detail and review. Obviously, we will not be doing any engineering or any greater design. This is at that planning level still, but still wanting to provide enough information to devise next steps of implementation across the agencies and school districts. So again, much more to come, but just wanted to share that at the outset here.
Okay.
So yeah, I think that's all I got. I'm happy to answer any questions and appreciate the time.
Any questions for him?
I have a comment.
Pardon me?
I have a comment.
Okay, Chad. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Chris. Great job. Chris was a great leader in guiding us in the study overall. And then I want to thank WAMPO staff for going on the, during the peak morning and evening drop off and pickup of children and parents. WAMPO staff also took the notes on how the crossing guards were there, and also thanks to all staff. And I also had the opportunity to go and visit and see how it gets crazy during that time of dropout. So Chris, thank you. I have a quick question, Chris, for you. On the recommendations, is there a criteria to prioritize those recommendations? WAMPO staff has some documentation on criteria, so we can help you, but I just want to hear from you.
Yeah, no, I think definitely having consistent, yes. So I think having criteria that's consistent to do that qualitatively would be important. So I think having those discussions on WAMPO's thoughts and how that can apply here across the area for all these schools would be the next step. But yes, definitely having something that could be pointed back to for the prioritization process would be a sensible solution.
Okay, thank you, Chris.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Any other questions?
I do.
Okay, Lynn. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I had a question. Has there been any references made to the neighborhood plans with the schools which are within the city of Wichita? Because the neighborhood plans may or may not have references to the sidewalk improvements and safe route to school.
I can just say that Kim has mentioned those neighborhood plans to us. I don't think we have all those in our repository yet, but we have been starting to discuss those. Those are on our radar. Yes.
Thank you. Lynn?
I know you got about another year left on this contract. When are we looking at those recommendations coming to this body?
I would expect, I would say kind of the detailed review here, likely in the summer would be my kind of tentative guess right now. So in the spring, we'll start to have additional conversations with the agencies and the school districts on, kind of the final outcomes of all of our existing conditions analysis, kind of the focused issue areas that we're seeing, and want to have those confirmation discussions first. And then kind of after that spring milestone, circling back on these recommendations, probably late summer, early fall would be when we'd have those solidified. But that's just kind of a high level schedule. It's still another milestone or two until we get to this point of what I'm showing on the screen here. More conversations to come, but yeah, that would be kind of the next steps if that's making sense.
Go ahead, Steve. Either one of you.
Mine's more just of a comment. If we can have the earlier in the spring that we can have those conversations at the agency level, I think facilitates us potentially getting them into our CIP, because late summer will be too late for anybody to get anything put into a budget process.
You probably said it, but is the survey questions that were answered or whatnot, was that targeted within a certain distance of schools or so?
So the online survey was actually open to anyone. So admittedly, we did get information from schools that weren't in our priority list. And so acknowledging that, but the tallies were from the schools specifically, but the survey was from any parent or caregiver that had a student enrolled in the MPO area. But majority of our respondents were from those schools that are participating, based upon, Kim and others just closely coordinating with them.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Other comments? Well, thank you. We appreciate it. We'll look forward to getting that hopefully in the spring, earlier spring if we could. So.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you all.
Thank you. All right. The annual bike and pedestrian data report. Pete?
Morning again. So, as you all know, WAMPO, through the generous help of volunteers, has facilitated region-wide annual bicycle pedestrian counts since 2012. Each year, the results of the count are detailed in an annual bicycle and pedestrian data report. Of the 40 locations planned for counting in 2025, at least one 2-hour count was completed at 38 locations related to volunteer availability and weather issues. 2025 marks the 4th year that WAMPO has implemented mathematical methods to estimate the annual average daily traffic, or non-motorized traffic that is, at each location where counts were performed. Converting multiple counts into a site, it makes a one AADT estimate it provides a single annual number for that location. Sorry, I tripped over those words quite a bit. This allows for multiple raw counts, like as we do with 3 different days per location, to be combined into one estimate. It also reduces some of the underlying variability in the raw data. These counts tend to fluctuate quite a bit just by location and by day. It also facilitates simplified comparisons of non-motorized traffic between locations at the same locations and over different locations and over multiple years. It's much more difficult if you have 3 different raw counts and you're trying to compare them to how they go from one year to the next in kind of a simplified table or a bar chart. So for this year, we looked at the 2025 draft ADT estimates, and it was noted that some of the non-motorized estimates appeared higher than what may be reasonably anticipated. We saw one location that had up to an estimated 5,000 non-motorized count for traffic for non-motorized pedestrians and bicycles, which we thought seemed a bit high. So we reviewed the methods used to estimate these ADT, and we found that some of the hourly and daily conversion factors were applied inconsistently. Some locations with no count data collected had been misinterpreted as a completed count with no non-motorized traffic observed. And then also there was limited documentation on how the estimation methods were adapted from the National Bicycle and Pedestrian Documentation Project, or NBPD. They created this whole estimation framework. As a result, we reviewed all the raw count data and documented a clear interpretation of the methods from the National Bike Pedestrian Documentation Organization. And these documented methods were applied consistently to the 2025 counts. Then we looked at all prior year values and noticed the same higher than anticipated volumes. So we redid all those non-motorized AADT estimates from 2012 to 2024. The new estimates often skewed much lower than previously calculated values, and many locations did not have an AADT estimated for certain years related to insufficient data. So the procedure from the NPDD, or the National Bike Pedestrian Documentation Organization, relies on the development of an average hourly count for both weekdays and weekends, requiring at least one raw weekday and raw weekend count for an estimate to be calculated. And not all locations for all years had both kinds of counts. So after significant review and recalculation, we revised the 2025 annual bicycle and pedestrian report, and the top 5 locations with the highest estimated non-motorized AADT are shown below. We have Arc River Path at Keeper of the Plains as our highest one there. It briefly traded spots with Douglas and Washington in 2022, but otherwise that has been the highest location, I think, since 2020. You can see a map of all of those. We marked the ones that had insufficient data. Again, the highest non-motorized AADTs tend to concentrate near the center of the city. We have an interactive map with all previous year AADT estimations where there was sufficient data available online, and that's all been updated. You can find this report. We took down the 2024 and prior years reports because they had those estimates that were needed to be recalculated. So we just have the 2025 report online, but you can see the re-estimated counts in that interactive map. And then I wanted to touch base on the MyoVision camera. So as a pilot test, 9 MyoVision cameras were deployed across the region and completed full daytime counts from 6:30 a.m. to 8:30 p.m. in tandem with the 2025 bicycle pedestrian count. Several cameras were placed at locations where manual counts were also conducted to verify accuracy of the MyoVision counts, assess the practical limitations of equipment deployment, and compare against our non-motorized AADT estimations, so we can get a reasonableness check on our estimates based on what MyoVision saw. So first thing we did, we looked at 3 locations, a total of 18 hours of raw video where both manual and automated counts were performed to assess the accuracy claimed by the manufacturer. You can see that little blurb about that. They do talk about how they do have some limitations, like plus minus 5 pedestrians or bicycles per 15-minute period if you're under 50, then a blanket plus or minus 5% after 50 if you're having that many pedestrians per 15-minute period. The key takeaway, in all cases, the accuracy either met or in most cases exceeded the manufacturer's claim. So we're quite happy with that. Practical limitation. So we set up the mile vision cameras, and for most locations, that seemed to be fine. The time requirement wasn't too much. I would estimate most of your time is driving to the location. Setup may take, for us, maybe 20, 30 minutes if you have a good location. The primary limitation was making sure you had something to attach it to. So you do need a utility pole. You need something there that you can see. So there are some count locations that we have that we don't have a practical way to set these cameras up. In the future, to better align with available staff time, it may be useful to use a stage deployment for automated bicycle pedestrian counts. There's no particular reason why these kind of annual counts would have to be done during a single week where you're rushing out to get all these done. You could create maybe a schedule perhaps to make that a little simpler. And then finally, I just wanted to present this to the Technical Advisory Committee on this. I have on this our estimated AADT counts at these locations, so Main and Grand, Central and Broadway, Sedgwick County Park at 13th. That number is the blue bar. The green bars are the 14-hour MyoVision weekday and MyoVision weekend counts. And I was quite happy to see, I didn't anticipate they would match exactly, but they're fairly close and much, much more in line with what you would anticipate at many of these locations. So for Main and Grand, you can see the 14-hour MyoVision weekday, we had 203 on a weekday. The estimated AADT based on the volunteer counts was 240. The weekend count for that same location was 113. Now again, the 14-hour daytime count is not quite the same as an AADT because that would also be an average for an entire year, which of course would fluctuate. And then also it doesn't include the nighttime hours, which you would apply an additional factor to get. But I was happy to see some more general agreement than what we had previously with many AADT counts going into the thousands for these different locations. Now, finally, the future, we need to work to see how we can incorporate these automatic counters to better facilitate and get a more complete set of counts for the region for annual bicycle pedestrian counts. Again, like I mentioned, there are some raw count locations that are likely still going to need to have a person or some other method just because we can't deploy a camera there. But it does seem like this is a feasible alternative to having a human there. Any questions for me on the counts? I know that was a lot.
Comments.
So do you think you'll deploy the MyoVision cameras at different locations next year to do another spot check as to what you did this year, maybe?
I would like to see it also to verify how variable it is. So we know there's some error in the MyoVision counters. We also know there's some error in human counters. I mean, if you're getting 100 people in an hour, it's easy to miscount that kind of high. But I would like to see, like, if we go to that same location next year, say we saw 600 people over 14 hours, how variable is that? Well, if we count the same day next year, are we going to see about 600, or is it going to move up and down? But now we know our observation was more correct. Like we had almost a full day. Ideally, hopefully by next year, we'd be in a position where we might be able to do some locations with a MyoVision counter, especially for ones where we don't have volunteers. The future is really, we can really shape it in a lot of different ways. I feel like from what we've seen, this, again, seems like a feasible alternative to having a human count in many locations.
Thank you, Mr. Chow. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Lynn.
Do we have more locations where a camera is just not possible, or do the majority of locations where we get counts look like a MyoVision camera would work?
I think in most locations we can, because we can attach them to power line, or if there's a power line there, we can attach it to those. So we can, C-A-N, sorry if I sound like I said can't. We can put them on those, which most locations, if they're not at like a signalized intersection, oftentimes you have that. So I think for most locations we can. It, again, depending on how we could move forward with that in mind, we could put counts, you could spread these counts out quite a bit, and we could actually do probably the vast majority of them with this automated counter, if that's something we want to do.
You know, Chad?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Peter, thank you. That's a great job to validate counts with the, with equipment. So I just want to share with the rest of the members that Peter is working on the contract for active transportation plan, the regional active transportation plan. City of Wichita already completed most recently, and then find the gaps and prioritization of the facilities as well as innovation. So just want to give a heads up that next year on, we'll be working with you all to continue active transportation plan as well as counts. That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Got it? Any other business needs to come before the board? If not, we stand adjourned. Thank you all. Have a happy Thanksgiving.